Welcome to the Financially Legal Podcast, the podcast of inspiration and tactical advice for the entrepreneurial, mission-driven lawyer. Case management is becoming the heart, even the operating system of modern law firms. Many law firms know that they need case management, but they're unsure about which one of the hundreds or even potentially thousands of options to use. We at Gravity Legal know this is a problem because we get this question from lawyers and law firms all the time. This limited podcast series on Financially Legal is designed to provide firms with the information and insight to choose the system that's right for them. Today, I'm excited to speak with Matt Bright, Senior Product Specialist in the Partner Channel at Intuit, helping QuickBooks partners help their customers leverage the power and value of QuickBooks. QuickBooks is unique in both the small business and small legal tech business ecosystems, because in talking to lawyers, there's really no system that we bump into or encounter more frequently than QuickBooks. However, what's interesting is that lawyers and law firms use QuickBooks in a wide variety of ways in their practices. In addition, precisely because QuickBooks is used so widely, there's much for lawyers to learn from others outside of the legal sector, not only about how to get the most from QuickBooks, but how to run their businesses more effectively. Today, I'm excited to welcome Matt Bright, a Senior Product Specialist in the Partner Channel at Intuit, to the Financially Legal Podcast. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Dan. I'm excited to be here.
I've told folks who you are. I've told them a little bit about what you do, but it's always easier from my perspective to have someone else talk about that, or particularly my guest talk about themselves. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate that, Dan. Yeah, I've been with Intuit coming up on 23 years. And back when I started, we only had one financial product. And we'll talk about that a little bit more about how we've grown and expanded. But yeah, it's very exciting. And in those 23 years, have really been able to work through all the different parts of the organization, both sales, marketing, management, forecast planning, quite a few different things. But it's all really been tailored around helping small businesses succeed. Just a little bit about me personally. When I was young, my dad started his own business. Then I had started my own business and then came to work for Intuit. And I've always been super passionate about helping small businesses grow and thrive because I can relate firsthand to their challenges, both from my dad's business, my business, and many other businesses I've worked with. Excited to be here today and hopefully share a little bit of knowledge and continue down that path, that journey of helping small businesses.
And this may seem like a super straightforward question, maybe to just about everyone, but I want to hit it anyway, which is, how would you describe, or what is QuickBooks?
Yeah, there's a simple answer to that, and put simply, it's an accounting software. Of course, it goes much broader than that, and part of that is that tenure I've had with the company, watching the product grow and expand, watching our services grow and expand. But to keep it simple up front, it's really about keeping your books organized, keeping your business organized, keeping on top of trends, being ready for tax time. But it anchors into the themes of saving small business owners time and money, using technology to automate, using technology to make things simpler. And it's been really exciting to see as the business world has embraced technology, how we have been able to integrate technology like AI and other things to help, pull in information from your bank feeds, from other sources, and really try to get to a place where, you have to do less. There's less and less manual work. We've been working really hard on making QuickBooks, both your front, your mid, your back office, integrating those, making, again, less manual work, having you have greater confidence in your books, especially when you go to tax time or when you go to take out a business loan or when maybe you're selling the business and you need to know those books are accurate so you get the best value out of your business. Those are all the things we're working really hard on and encapsulates what QuickBooks is to me.
Love it. And you said a lot in there, but one of the things you did mention was AI. And that's actually one question that we've started asking folks because it's a super interesting topic these days. So let's narrow it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and one other thing, that I missed there is we used to have a philosophy that we tried to do everything as QuickBooks. We were your one-stop shop. And it's not a bad philosophy. But one of the things we did learn over developing QuickBooks Desktop for so many years, 30 plus years, it's very hard to boil the ocean, as they say. We have learned through the power of partnerships, through the power of our apps, through our API integrations and our ecosystem. I'm excited to say we have now over 750 apps, and Gravity Legal being one of them. And really excited because we can't do everything. We tried really hard with desktop and we had a lot of years to do it. And now as we're leaning more into QuickBooks Online, we've really learned the value of, hey, let's go out to the best in class applications. Let's get their workflows plugged in. So again, that we can continue to fill gaps, in this case, in the legal space. But we've really been able to do that across all industries. And so excited to talk about that a little bit today as well, is the power of partnering and making sure that everything's connected so that as you grow and expand, as your business needs get more complex, you don't feel like you have to change off your existing platform. Excited about how we're starting to not do that just at a small scale, but a large scale as well.
Awesome. Yeah, let's definitely get into that, particularly as we dive into some of the broader use cases on QuickBooks. So let's go from broad to a little bit narrower. And for the next little bit, I'll do not the vast majority, but the majority of the talking as I just walk our audience through, because I'm not sure that everyone is aware of how we see lawyers using QuickBooks. And then as we round out to the end of that, we'll talk a little bit too about, I think, some of the both features that you folks own or offer, as well as potential kind of what's the next step out of maybe features that you see professional services or lawyers using. And then we'll talk big picture, because I think that's another piece that's really interesting is, Matt, you sit in a really interesting place in terms of being able to see lots of different small businesses and how they function and providing some insights to our lawyers. I think there are three main use cases that we see for lawyers in QuickBooks. And one, I think, strikes right at the heart of the first kind of answer to your question, which is it's an accounting system. And that's what we see a lot of law firms using QuickBooks for, is simply as a standalone accounting software. In this case, at least what we see is either the firm is not using a separate case management system, or the case management software doesn't integrate with QuickBooks, or for whatever reason, the firm has chosen to just use them standalone. And Matt, I know you may not be steeped in the legal sector as much as I am, but I'll just quickly mention that this piece is super important for law firms in particular, and more specifically for those law firms who use their trust account often, because there are significant professional issues related to how lawyers accept and move and distribute money from that trust account. And so it would make sense that they would say, hey, doing this on a paper ledger really sucks, or even on an Excel spreadsheet or on the back of a napkin. There's a better way. And QuickBooks obviously falls into that category. The final piece I'll mention too, Matt, before I turn the time over to you for any thoughts on this, is we've even seen, both because this is such high stakes and also because it can get complex, there's really a whole cottage industry of accounting experts who have grown up around QuickBooks, who are like expert legal accountants for QuickBooks. And we talk about those folks at length on our website and have referrals to them. So if anyone's interested, by all means, you can reach out. But that's another kind of piece that I'd be remiss to mention, is we often see a law firm using QuickBooks, but they also have an accountant who's even specialized in QuickBooks to really make sure that stuff works. Again, that use case is pretty straightforward, but would love your comments or thoughts on that, Matt.
Yeah, it's what I hear you describing, and how I talk to my customers about it when I'm talking to a potential customer, is having a business is complex. You always have 24 dozen irons in the fire. There's customers to meet with, there's marketing to do, there's bills to pay, there's thinking about where your business is headed, where it's at today, how can I make things better? There's so many decisions midstream. And sometimes you can compartmentalize those different actions that you need to take as a business. So again, I need to make sure my accounting's organized. Let me go out and grab a solution for that. Oh, I need to make sure there's a legal or there's a compliance workflow I need to make sure. Let me go out and get an app for that. Oh, I need to make sure I'm ready for tax time, or I need the guidance of an accountant who has worked with multiple law firms so they can look over and see and give me the guidance on, hey, have I set things up the best way possible? The question, though, becomes, Dan, is how do you thread the needle between all those? How do you have your apps? How do you have your accounting software? How do you have your accountant and bookkeeper? What's going on today? What you're planning for the future? How can you do all that and have it all connected? And I think that's where technology is caught up to the point where it's getting really exciting for businesses, because they used to have to use disparate parts and pieces, and then they had to go into Excel and in other ways and do things manually and try to work, a good amount of hours to either have offboard that to their bookkeeper or accountant, or spend a lot of time in Excel. But it's very exciting to see how now, again, through more and more API integrations, more and more data easily being able to be shared. And sometimes you not even have to put in data once, just pulling it in from like a bank feed or other things like that, through a payments app, through other ways that you're passing data. Now it shows up, it's done, it's complete. And now you as a business owner can step back and be less worried about all these tasks and all these manual processes and how do I catch up to make that deadline of end of quarter, end of year, and start getting time back to actually focus on, hey, how did my business do the last 3 months, 6 months, a year? Where do I want to go in the next 3-6 months, a year? How can I start planning that out? How can I start reallocating resources? How can I be more efficient? How can I be more profitable in what I'm doing? And so you take more control of the business because you have a little bit more time. You have an automated connected system or solution. And instead of thinking about it again, compartmentalize, oh, I need to solve for bookkeeping, or I need to solve for this industry or compliant. No, the system I have in place does it all. And now it's so much easier for me to take a look at the health of my business, understand the insights real time, understand where I'm headed, and what it is I need to do to get to the next step of where I want to take my business. It's a really exciting time we're in, Dan. And thank you for the question. And that's my perspective and where I see business owners get excited, as well as where I jump in there and get excited with them, trying to figure out, hey, how do we put together the right solution for you so that we can make life a little bit easier? Because again, back to my background, watching my dad run his business, me starting my own business, working with so many business owners over the years. Even if you have many years of expertise, it's still not easy. It's still a lot to manage. Even when you get the software just right, you still need to stay on top of those things. But the software really can be a huge chunk in making it easier, making it more automated, making it more straightforward and seamless. And that's what gets me excited. No one gets in business to work in Excel for the most,
absolutely,
or do things manually.
Totally. And actually, I think that's a great segue, Matt, to the second use case that we see for law firms using QuickBooks, which is integrated into their case management systems. There's so many different case management systems out there, everything from Lawmatics to Locus to Lean Law to Clio to, my case, probably numbering into the hundreds. But I think one hallmark of many of them, not all, because some choose to bring that accounting piece in-house, but most of them choose to leverage what QuickBooks has built. And I think building off what you just said, or building on more accurately what you just said, say, hey, all of this stuff can be tied together now. And we want to use this very robust and well-tested and powerful kind of accounting system underneath it. So let's just take the case management system that we have and integrate QuickBooks into it. So that's, I think, the second use case. And I think it really is just an extension of everything you were just saying, which is, hey, great. We know all of this needs to be done. We know all of it can be done by technology. Let's marry these two together. And I'll just say, before, Matt, I give you a chance to comment on your thoughts on that, if any, the one piece I will say is, because QuickBooks has built such an open ecosystem and is really allowing lots of different companies and technologies to integrate, not all QuickBooks integrations are the same. Some case management systems have elected to only integrate a part of QuickBooks. Others have gone much deeper. And I just say that to say, depending on how meticulous and specific you want to be on your books, and to your point, Matt, maybe how much time somebody wants to be spending in QuickBooks as opposed to doing the law practice, that's something to be aware of. because QuickBooks has really left it up to the developers to decide how much they want to integrate. But that's our second use case. And I think it really builds off of what you just said, Matt, which is it's a really interesting moment in technology. Small businesses can use these technologies to accelerate and improve the way they run their business. And now we actually see a lot of these kind of coming together in a really powerful way. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, two thoughts. One, the way I like to break it down again is to think in terms of front office, mid office, and back office. And the reason why is you have your revenue generating activities, you're going out to get more clients, maybe some marketing or other activities that's going to, again, drive business, drive net new revenue. What are we doing from a front office perspective? What are we doing from a mid office perspective? That's all the logistical stuff. So, again, if you're filling out paperwork, legal paperwork for a client, if you're tallying up billable hours, there's all sorts of logistics. You may have to go to a court appointment, whatever the case may be. And then once all of that's done, you need to record it so you can learn about it. You can be ready for tax time. You can estimate, forecast off of it, understand trends and all that fun stuff. And that's your back office. And the second part is you really hit the nail on the head. We have 750 apps, and that's growing all the time. Not all apps are the same. Here's the way I like to break it down, just to keep it simple. What's exciting to me is, businesses can grow at a tremendous velocity these days. It used to be a business had to be in business 5, 10, 20 years before it got really big. Now, with technology, with expertise, people can grow their businesses at an amazing scale. And so what I really ask business owners to think about is two things. One, where are you at today? Are you the SMB? Are you a super small startup? Do you just have a few clients if you're a law firm? Or have you gotten to that upper end of SMB? You're starting to get to a medium-sized business. You have dozens, if not hundreds of clients. You have quite a few employees, several $1 million in revenue. Or have you actually got to that mid-market space? And again, the way everyone defines this different in the industry, and I'm not saying my way is the correct way, but the point is you're going to be at different steps in your business tenure, your business growth, your business journey. And then you want to find the solution that aligns with not just where you are today, but where you're going to be in the next 6 or so months. Because you're correct. Some go way deep. Some do everything. Some do it at a very complex level. Sometimes you're looking at an app and it could be solving, again, if you have thousands of clients, but you may be a business who only has 50 or 100 clients. So that's what I would say is as you take a look at the front, the mid, and the back office, as you're building out how you're going to connect those and solve for those, also think about your apps in that perspective. Am I at the SMB, the medium-sized SMB, or am I grown out of an SMB and really into a mid-market business? And then really try to find the apps that will take care of you, not just where you're at today, but also where you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. And I'll even take that a step further and say, as you start to think about what you want to use, and Matt, you can tell me if you agree with these recommendations or not. I think they're pretty sound, but totally open to your feedback. Before picking an integrated system that works with QuickBooks, our recommendation from a Gravity Legal side is that law firms do two things. First, see if you can get a trial or really dig in and make sure that the system works the way that you want and expect it to. And second, even potentially try to track down some current customers of both of the integrated system and have conversations with them to understand how the two systems work together. Because I think that's a great way, Matt, to your point, to both ensure that it works for you today, but also as you project forward is going to work for you tomorrow. Again, I think that those are fairly inarguable, but if you have any thoughts, would love them.
Yeah, that due diligence, I think, is excellent. When you get into a sandbox environment, it's even one thing to see it in the demo, but better case scenario, you get into a sandbox environment because then that's where you can really tease out all of the ways you do things as a business. Because every business, I've talked to so many businesses over my 23 years, and I've never found one that's the same. They can be in the same industry, but everyone does things just a little different. And so that's where it's hard on us as someone putting together these solutions is we don't want to make too many assumptions. And that's why I love a sandbox environment so that you can get in there And you can say, hey, how do I approach this? What's my unique way of doing business? What makes me successful? And then you get in that sandbox environment, you tease out those workflows, and you're like, yep, this is awesome. There's a few things in there I didn't even think about that could benefit me as well as I continue to get bigger. So yeah, that's an excellent suggestion. And I agree 100%, Dan.
Love it. Just as we pass by here, I wanted to give one shout out to one of our joint partners that I think has done a particularly good job in this space, and that's a company called Lean Law. Lean Law has worked really hard to keep QuickBooks at the center of their case management system, while simultaneously building additional timekeeping and billing features that takes that powerful core of QuickBooks and really supercharges it for the legal use case. So just wanted to give them a shout out as we move through this. So the final use case that we see for law firms using QuickBooks is as a standalone case management system. And these firms often leverage more than just the accounting modules of QuickBooks. They might take advantage of the invoicing, the timekeeping, or other features. But typically, these firms don't really bother with the separate case management system. They're comfortable and feel that QuickBooks has more than enough for them to do what's needed. In terms of a profile of these firms, often they don't use their trust account much, although that's definitely not exclusively the case. And a lot of the examples we've seen are in the immigration space. Immigration firms in particular seem to think that works really well for them. They're not necessarily small. Many of these are like really decent sized firms who are doing this. One of our biggest customers, in fact, at Gravity Legal is an immigration firm that uses QuickBooks in just this way. But Matt, I think this is a good opportunity to maybe talk about, and I'll actually be honest, I have a small side business that recently adopted QuickBooks. My very brief story on that front, and this is a much longer conversation and definitely not worth rehashing here, but I'd for years been doing, like, I am the poster child for kind of bad accounting practices. I'd been for years, not bad, but I'd for years been doing my own accounting in Google Sheets. And to some degree, I like playing around in that. So like to some level, this is on me. But I had built this very complex spreadsheet that added everything up for taxes and generated a form for me at the end of the year that I could file with my taxes. And it probably took me 7 or 8 years to get this thing humming the way that I wanted it to. And about 2 years ago, I sat back and said, oh, I see what I've done here. I built a bad version of QuickBooks. And about actually the beginning of this calendar year, I said, I'm just going to use a tool that was intended for this. And I'm not like, you're not paying me to say this. It has been a lifesaver. And actually, I've started using some of the other QuickBooks features as well, the automated tax features and that kind of thing. But as a satisfied user, this is not a legal use case. So again, it's a little different, but I can 100% say that like this tool works and it's fantastic. And it's far better than building your own. Even if you like that control, like the kind of time that I took and spent building this thing out was far greater than the amount of time it would have taken me to just learn QuickBooks and happily use it. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside, but did want to mention like these tools really are powerful. But yeah, I guess 2 questions to you. A, thoughts about firms who maybe use QuickBooks as their kind of sole case management system, and then B, would love you to talk about some of those additional features that QuickBooks that make QuickBooks way more powerful than just an accounting platform. And it's maybe you have a third point too. So go ahead, Matt. I'll let you roll.
Yeah, well, first I want to anchor back to your story because it's very interesting, and we see a lot of customers who, just like yourself, love to work with numbers. And I would challenge a customer like that, and in a positive way, we should all be sharing thought leadership, is would you rather spend your time building out a financial software, or would you rather go to a dashboard, have it all done, and then plan for the next phase of your business?
Yep.
If you could have spent 7 or 8 years instead of building out a software, having all of that at your fingertips, and then planning for the next phase of your business. And of course, this is a rhetorical question. Could you maybe have done some things in your business with that extra time? How could you have grown it?
I can say personally, 1,000%. Yes, I could have. Yes. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
We as business owners get into business because we're passionate about something. And that business, I understand that business is your baby. Like it's a proud moment when you have a business. And like you said, when it's been in business 7, 8 years, that's awesome. And sometimes some of the hardest things to do is to give up control of that business. But what you want to make sure is that, again, where is your time best used? And that's the question I would ask. Can we give you a better set of dashboard analytics? Can we give you better ways to, and I'll get into one of the questions you mentioned about what are some of the things QuickBooks can do above and beyond just organizing for tax time, which is important. But what I appreciate, again, from sitting in the small business owner seat is having the dashboard where you can customize your KPIs, where you can understand as I'm billing out for each client, as I have these matters I'm addressing, as I'm keeping track of all of my payments and keeping compliant for those. And I know you guys do a great job helping us out there. What are the trends? What are the emerging trends? Is it taking more hours because something's changed? Paperwork that used to take me 2 hours, is it now taking me 2.5? Is it taking me 3? Or is there not as many new lawyers, junior lawyers coming into this space? So I'm having to pay my senior lawyers to do this. And so now it's not only costing my clients more, maybe I'm having to absorb some of that because I'd have to charge $100 an hour instead of $65 an hour. Where are the insights? How is your software working to bring up those insights to you and help you really stay on top of? Because you don't know how many times I have business owners come to me and they say, I can grow my firm larger, but I'm growing my expenses as fast as I'm growing my revenue. And that tells me right away, okay, there's something, the mix is off there somewhere. Again, is there these little things happening like I was just talking about? Is the paperwork taking longer? Is the process taking longer? Is it more expensive for one reason or another? Is it the talent pool? What we have really worked hard to do by setting up these dashboards in QuickBooks Advanced, or really I would say, and it's not just about QuickBooks, any tool you choose to use, do you have it surfacing these insights is what I would step back and say. How profitable are you being? Are you able to scale? Or what's getting in your way? And the cool thing is, 5 years ago, the answer may have been the only answer was to do it manually, or the only answer was to have something third party that doesn't connect and catch up the rest of your system with what you had just done. Now we're at a spot where that's really no longer an excuse. And so I would ask the business owner, and I would again challenge them a little bit in where are we spending our time? Is it scalable? How is your software giving you those really insightful trends and analysis on your business? So that again, because again, if you're buried in doing 10, 20, 30 hours of manual work, are you really going to have time to get to those insights? That's where a lot of times we see those slide under the rug. And then sometimes, again, back to your point, having an amazing accountant who works with tons of other law firms, sometimes they can identify those trends and bring them to your attention. But best case scenario, a lot of times we only meet with an accountant once a quarter. So, best case scenario, again, your software is servicing them. You're on top of them right as they're starting to emerge versus when they're already baked in 3-6 months later. And now you've taken a loss or you've slowed down as a business when you really were hoping to be accelerating. So again, that's what I would say. Find the right add-ons, find the right system that works for you. Find out, again, define your front, mid, and back office. Take a look at each one of those sections. What's going well? How's it talking to each other, keeping each other updated? How's it servicing insights? How is it helping me as a business owner be more successful? And if there's something you're not happy with, challenge that. Don't be happy with where you're at. Start asking questions. Is there another way? Like you said, get a trial, get a demo, see what we can do, because a lot of times it's really exciting. For a minimal investment, you can get a huge return. So I hope that answered your questions. If not, feel free to recircle those. But that's my perspective on that situation. Even someone who's using QuickBooks, don't just be happy with the fact that, hey, things are going pretty good. Look at the front, mid, and back office. Look for other efficiencies you'd like to gain, and look at the history of how profitable you've been. And if you're seeing some things be off or some things starting to change, let's have a conversation. Maybe we're the right person to solve that. Maybe another third party app is, or maybe a different business altogether. But the point is, don't just be happy with status quo. Challenge it to be better.
That's great. And that was going to be one of my last questions. I want to touch quickly on the AI piece, but yeah, that was exactly what I was going to ask you, Matt, is what do you think? Let's zoom out and look at law firms as just one of the many users of QuickBooks. What's your perspective on just even business growth or business development or evolution? And I think for someone, from your perspective, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll just recharacterize it and maybe add a little bit of my piece. For someone who sits where you sit and sees all these businesses, one common thread, I'm guessing, is this desire to just constantly improve, to grow, to look for that opportunity. And sure, it's easier for us to find it in the accounting or the business operations space. And you did a nice job. We've been talking about this already, is front office, mid office, back office, right? It's about seeking opportunities to grow in all of those and then working to improve your business by focusing on one or another element, which I thought was really great. But yeah, if there are any other insights that you'd like to share, again, seeing how, stepping back now and thinking, hey, thousands of different kinds of businesses from a really interesting space, what insights could you share?
I'm super excited about where we're headed with AI.
Yeah.
Really. We've been using it for quite some time for bank feeds. We've also used it in what's called our cash flow planner, which is a really nice sandbox that allows you as a business owner go into your books and put in hypothetical scenarios. So let's say that you're about to take on 3 more lawyers, or let's say you're going to remodel or expand to that bigger location that's been a goal of yours, or you're going to open up a second location across town or in a different state. You have these capital investments coming. You have these expenses. What's nice is you can go in and you can put in those what if scenarios. What if I did this November, bought that second office, or started my remodel, or hired those 3 more lawyers? I'm going to need 3 more computers. I'm going to need more software. I'm going to need, there's not just the act of hiring someone, but there's other expenses that come along with that. And so what you can do is you can go into the cash flow planner and you can actually say, I estimate these 3 people to cost X amount of salary, X amount in hardware, software. Here's what it's going to take to get them set up. And then you can look and see, well, what is that going to do to my ability to be able to pay my bills, to be able to pay my employees, to be able to continue to grow my business? Do I have the capital to swing it myself, or can I maybe phase 1 in November, 1 in December, and 1 in January, and then I can do it myself and I don't have to go get a business loan? Or anyway, the point is you can really start to have your software help you plan the future of your business and when is the best time to make these big capital investments. But it gets even better. In our investor day, we just recently, and this was like yesterday, released some further technology about a QuickBooks Assistant, where now you can actually talk to QuickBooks. The way people used to think of accounting is, hey, let me go pull up a report. Let me customize that report. Let me send it to Excel or whatever. Now you can actually speak to the software and say, hey, show me my profit over the last 3 months. It's like talking to Siri or anything else. And it actually then goes, and you don't have to know how to get to the report. You don't have to know how to pull it or customize it, etc. You can just talk to the system and it comes back with the information. That's where AI and things are getting really exciting, and especially in the financial space. So again, instead of you sitting down, spending 30 minutes getting to that data, you just speak to your computer, spits it right back. You have it in a matter of seconds. So a lot of exciting things happening. And I guess I say all that to anchor back to, I just see so many business owners who are extremely successful, and I take my hats off to them. And I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but they're missing out on some of the innovations, on some of the technology, and some of the benefits. And they're successful enough to be able to continue to do these things manually, sending stuff to Excel, tracking compliance and workflows third party or through a different app, and it's not talking back to their financial software. So that's the biggest thing I would say is, instead of being fearful or timid about technology, it's really, again, it's where we started. It's an exciting time to be in business. It's an exciting place to be. And the really neat thing is a lot of this technology, it's not super expensive, which is awesome. But it used to be new technology came out and was at a premium. Now
Yeah.
technology is moving at such a pace where it's being affordable. So price isn't as much of a barrier as it used to be. Technology is not a barrier. As you look at your front, mid, and back office, if there's anything, even if you've done it manually for 5, 10, 20 years, challenge that. If you would like to make something automated, challenge that. Reach out and start talking to companies, because especially as AI comes into what we can do with software, there's a lot of advancements. And again, hopefully the whole point of this is serving up, let's redirect time to growing your business, to giving you more money back to do things that are more of a value add. And that's where, like I said, these partnerships and AI specifically is getting really exciting. So hopefully that answered your question. But yeah, that would be my perspective, is don't let things that have held you back from looking at this technology hold you back anymore, because there's a lot we can do to help you out.
Perfect. No, I think that's a great place for us to wrap it up. And Matt, I'll put you on the spot a little bit, although not to raise your blood pressure. If folks want to learn more about QuickBooks, has so many different facets and places to learn more. If I'm a law firm, and again, I'm putting you on the spot here, what would be the best way for me? Let's say I'm not a QuickBooks user, or I want to learn more about the different offerings that QuickBooks has. Where would folks go?
I would love for them to start with you, Dan. I would love for them to reach out to you. I will tell our audience today, part of our partners that we work with, they have internal resources at Intuit. So if you reach out to Dan and you have questions, I don't expect Dan to know everything about the other 750 apps or even everything about QuickBooks. But the great thing is when you reach out to Dan, then he reaches out to me, and then we both jump on a call with you. And we can, again, start talking about front office, mid office, back office. We can talk about what's your approach to business? How are you growing and scaling? Where maybe would you like to see things automated? And then what are all the parts and pieces? What's the accounts payable piece with Gravity Legal? What's the billing and matters piece, where you can get more in depth into every single debit and credit to the trust fund accounting, so that there's less questions or research to do when people say, hey, why is my account balance at X, Y, or Z? Being able to send out really detailed statements. And then when you have these dashboards, when you have this AI kicking in, again, having that confidence in your books and getting excited about, hey, I'm ready to make that capital investment. Everything's going really well. I got the money to do it. Let's do it. We would love to have that discussion with you. Start with Dan, pull me in. We'll talk about, again, other potential companies. But the point is, it's different for every business. And that's why it's not a one size fits all. As we mentioned earlier, some solutions are for startup businesses, some solutions are for medium-sized businesses, some solutions are for those mid-market or really broad businesses. And so we can tailor this conversation and these solutions to each and every unique scenario.
And I'll just double down on that, Matt, and say both as a customer and as a partner, what Matt is saying is actually true. Like, I have had times where I've reached out to QuickBooks for my own business, and the support has been, again, often as these businesses like Intuit get to be so big, that's one of the first pieces that they stop investing in. And I can say both personally and as a partner, like every time I'm able to find someone to help out, even for the smallest question, I'm not just blowing smoke here. Like, this notion of kind of a consultative approach really is how Intuit and the folks at QuickBooks really approaches this. And so I can attest to the fact that is probably the best way for you to start solving that problem. So hats off to you. And I appreciate that, because I think that has been a fantastic resource, both in my personal life and my work life. Cool, Matt, this has been great. I really appreciate the time we've spent. Looking forward to continuing to work together and continuing to help lawyers grow their businesses and leverage technology to do it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dan, and appreciate everyone who has attended. And yeah, if any questions come up, let us know. We'd be very happy to answer or dive into your particular law firm and how we can help you.
I really appreciate your time, Matt. That was great. Thank you for tuning into this episode of our special series on legal case management. If you're interested in exploring more legal case management options, head to gravity-legal.com/LCM, where we have several resources to help you select the right software for your firm.